Good morning again. Here I am again with another one of my stories. You know, somebody told me one time my stories were little nothing stories. And I said, well, don't you listen to them, Gary? And he said, well, I wouldn't miss one for nothing. I thought, well, I guess other people like them too. This story is one that I wrote when my mom was just a few days before she died. And I had just felt like there was something I had to do. And sometimes when you're real upset or nervous, it seems like you can write better, or it just comes deeper from your heart. But I wrote this a few days before my mother died. My husband said to me, boy, I wish she could hear that. My mom was in a nursing home. She was over 90 years old, and about 90 and a half. And I went up there, and she couldn't talk anymore. But the whole time I read the story to her, she made a little noise, like she'd go, like she could hear me. I knew she could hear me. So that was pretty cool. And I was even able to read that at her funeral. And that was just a special blessing for me to be able to do that, to pay tribute to my best friend. She was my best friend. Anyway, the name of this story is The Day My Mama Was Born. Facts and fiction of the way it might have been. I've only written 2 stories like this, but this is one that I built a story off of 10 things I knew that happened the day my mama was born. The year was 1913. Oh, it was a hot day on Calico Island in Monroe County, Illinois, near Maystown and across the river from Crystal City, Missouri. The date was Wednesday, July 23rd, when Florence Maugry woke up and told her husband, John, I do believe this is my baby day. John told her he had planned on putting up hay with her father, Isaac Bettis, who lived up the slough from them, with the renowned granny doctor, Florence's mother, Mary Cahoe Bettis. Florence's brother, Bill Bettis, was a regular MD. He had gone to school to be an MD in the area, but Florence had used her mom and doctoring the way she did with the Indian medicine and all that, so much that she preferred to kind of use him. Florence instructed John to tell her ma to get everything ready, that she was sure the baby would arrive that day. She would come up later. As Florence's oldest son, Johnny, was tending to the chickens and came in with a basket full of eggs, she told Johnny, you're going to have to take care of the children today. I don't know what all you had planned, but you're going to have to take care of the other children, because this is my baby day, and I will be having the baby today. And Johnny wasn't very happy about the babysitting. You know, he told her he was supposed to take a team of horses to Maystown with his brother Billy and get supplies for Grandpa Isaac. Florence waved him off. She had a way of doing that with her hands. She always did say, another day, Johnny, another day. She prepared a breakfast of hot oats, and her oldest daughter, Dorothy, helped feed the children and cleaned up after breakfast. She picked up her baby bag. She was reading a book, and she headed up the path with that book in her bag to her ma's house. After getting breakfast cleaned up and on the way, Mary Bettis was ready and waiting for Florence. Stretching out on that fresh bed that her mother had prepared for her, Florence pulled out that book from the baby bag and decided to read until the labor pains got unbearable. The labor continued on, and mid-afternoon, a tiny little, and I say tiny, very dark-skinned baby girl with a full head of coal black hair arrived to the hands of Mary Cahoe Bettis. In a very thrilled voice, she said, Florence, you finally got your Indian baby. Wait till you see her. Mary held the baby up so Florence could see her. Florence, with tears of joy running down both sides of her, said, oh, Ma, she's beautiful. She does look like more Indian than any of them. But she's so tiny, so small. I worry about her. And she said, yes, but she appears, Mary said, to be a real strong and healthy. She has a good, strong heartbeat. Mary weighed her, and she weighed 4.5 pounds. John Maugry had come in from the hayfield to get a piece of leather to repair a harness that had broken out in the field. He heard the babies cry. He quickly alerted his father-in-law, Isaac Bettis, that the baby had arrived. Mary heard them outside, so after getting the baby cleaned up, she told them they could come in and see the baby. Isaac was the first to notice how dark and how Indian this baby looked. John now was a man of few words. He was just glad to see his wife and child was okay. He wasn't that excited over this Indian thing anyway. He was the only one in the room that wasn't part Indian. He was a full-blooded Frenchman. He thought, I got black hair too. Maybe she got it from me, he thought to himself. Mary asked Florence if she was ready to call the children to see the new baby. Florence said that would be okay, but they needed to make up a little story. You know, a long time ago, people they didn't tell you where babies came from. They thought they came from wherever, you know. But so they were making up this little story. Mary said, "I have an idea. The kids saw me earlier gathering vegetables for supper, so just let me handle this." She went outside and rang the big dinner bell. This was a signal, that dinner bell, to come to the house from all over the island, and it was heard all over the island. It was only a few minutes until the children came running up that well-worn path, leaving a trail of dust behind them. But they weren't the only ones that heard the bell. The children were greeted by Grandma Bettis, who told them to wash their hands, and she washed the littlest one's hands. The children looked at each other kind of puzzled, except for Johnny. He just kind of grinned. He knew what was about to happen. She told her, she said, "I've got a surprise for you, but it's very, very small." They were just trying to figure out what that was she had. She escorted them into the room where their ma and the baby were laying there quietly on the bed. The little baby was wiggling its black eyes and at its mother's side. Florence said, "You have a new baby sister." One of them said, "Well, where did she come from?" Mary quickly speaks up and said, "You kids saw me out in the garden gathering them vegetables earlier this morning. The garden was between their two houses like. Well, when I got close to the cabbage patch, I heard this little cry, and something was wiggling under a big cabbage leaf. I lifted it up, and lo and behold, there was this little brown baby girl. I brought her in here and cleaned her up and gave her to your mama, so now you got a baby sister." Jeanette wanted to know if the reason the baby was so dark was it came out of the dirt. The other children and adults just kind of snickered. That is actually part of the real story. That was what they told, that they found my mother under a cabbage patch, okay? It was about that time that Isaac heard the sound of a horse running up to the house. Guess someone else heard that bell. They stepped outside and Isaac said, "Oh, I think it's old Black Hawk." Black Hawk jumped off the horse quickly and asked, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?" John said, "Oh, there ain't nothing wrong, Warren Cahill. I just got me a new baby girl, and she looks like your side of the family." Well, he said, "Well, now, John, there ain't nothing wrong with that, is there?" As he brushed back his long black hair and proceeded into the house to see the new baby. Warren Cahill was Mary Cahill Bettis' nephew and, of course, Florence's cousin. He just looked like a full-blooded Indian. He just was totally, they had quite a bit of Indian blood, but his really showed up. So they called him Black Hawk. Black Hawk greeted his aunt with a quick hug. She instructed him to wash his hand and reminded him, seemed to her, that he had not had a bath for a while. He assured her he had been in the river just the other day. Black Hawk peeked into the room. Florence saw her cousin and said, "Black Hawk, come on in," he said. "I hear you finally got you an Indian baby." Florence laughed and said, "Get out of here, Black Hawk. How many have you had?" One of his children, still in the room, said, "Mama, what are we going to name this baby?" Florence said, "Well, I've been reading a really good book, And one of the girls in the book was real dark complected, and she was a real strong character, and she was beautiful. Her name was Muriel Caroline. I think that is what we will call this small child. Muriel Caroline in the book, like I said, was a strong character, and she said maybe this child in its life will need a very strong name too. Everyone was present in the room for the naming of the baby. Black Hawk said, "Uncle Isaac, you know, I think I saw a jug of wine down in your cellar." Isaac said, "Well, I can't imagine you noticing something like that now, Black Hawk." "What about it?" Black Hawk continues. "Well, me and old French Louie, we caught a big old stringer of catfish down on the river this morning. I was thinking maybe we could have a celebration for the birth of Muriel Caroline. I'll go down and tell French Louie, and we'll bring the fish up. And I think and the rest, you can fix the rest of the meal, and we'll just have a big celebration." So Isaac fetched the wine from the root cellar, and I want you to know, they had a real celebration take place the day my mama was born on Calico Island, July the 23rd, 1913, okay? And my mom was a really strong person. She had cancer in 1950, and she whipped it. She had cancer in 1960, and she whipped it. She had cancer in 1970, and she whipped it. And she ended up dying. I said she died in her 90s. She was 90 and a half. And she was always a real strong, solid person. And there's a few, I'm going to see if you can see this. I don't even see it. It says River Roars. And it was a thing, they did a newspaper article on them a few years back. And because my mom, they went back and forth across the Mississippi River like it was walking across the sidewalk. The whole lot of them. They called the boats skiffs. And my mom, even after she got in the nursing home, she had like dementia or something there towards the end. And she couldn't remember other things real well, but she knew that river. She could read the river, and I'd take her down the river. Every week I took her down to the river to let her see the river. And she had such a rapport with it that she could tell you exactly the way to point the boat, or skiff as she would call it, to get you across the river, to accommodate how the flow of the river, you know, how fast it was rolling. And anyway, but she thought Grandma still lived over there. She thought great Grandma still lived over there. So it was kind of cool. At first it kind of bothered me, then I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. It's kind of make-believe, but I kind of enjoyed it myself. But this is a picture of she and my aunt by marriage, my Uncle Pete, that got killed in World War II. That's his wife. And the title of this says, Calico Island Clan boated back and forth across the river as just a part of everyday life. And they did. They did that. And this is a picture. I'm going to do this. This is me and Uncle Johnny, if you can see it. Now, this way. Uncle Johnny's lived to be in his 90s. He was the one that taught me all the natural medicine. That's a picture of me a long time ago. Think of what I looked like a long time ago. But anyway, he has on his Arizona hat. He was on the Arizona in World War I. Of course, you know what happened to Arizona in World War II. But he was actually, that was a hat from there. Then if you'll hold that picture up. This is a picture of my mama, not in her later years, but she was a dandy. I carry a lot of her spirit. So anyway, and that's the story for this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let us know if you're liking them, you know. We'll keep on doing it.